Good morning, everyone. Hope you're well. So I want to go a bit deeper into a subject today of victimization and look a little bit deeper at how we get to this perspective. So a lot of people in this kind of new agey spiritual movement say you should never be a victim, you should take 100% responsibility. And largely I agree with this, that we should really do our very best to take ownership for our personal reality, our view of the world, our activity. But we live in a world which is full of corruption and distortion and unconscious behavior, and surrounded by people who don't always have our best interests, and corporations, institutions, media, constantly trying to manipulate us and coerce us into different ways of being and living, and commerce, buying things and being addicted to certain things, compulsions. So we're surrounded by this mire of confusion, this web of lies. And within all of this, there are bright lights. There are people that we know and love and trust and connect with, and how to stay present with those allies of the heart in the midst of all these kind of hyenas, if you like. So victimization sometimes can simply be we're caught off guard. We have been seduced or manipulated or coerced into a certain way of being or expectations, and we've fallen for it. And maybe we've fallen for it because of our primal needs, that we want to belong, we want to fit in, we want to be loved. And we're sold certain ideas or products even that believe they can comfort us or take us to that place. And so kind of unknowingly, or rather unconsciously, we are drawn into this. So we are a victim sometimes to our unconsciousness, which allows us to fall into the traps of those that set the traps around us. Now in the bigger picture, if we step right back and look as an eagle, we will see that everything has the potential for learning, for growth. That sometimes the most painful situations are the things that we've expanded and evolved through, and get to know our best version of our best self, sometimes through the contrast of living through the worst moments. So things are not always what they seem, and the immediacy of pain or suffering seems terrifying and terrible, and yet in a wider context, years down the line sometimes, we realize that the wound is transformed into a gift and becomes an ally for others of compassion and love and tenderness and wisdom. So all things can be turned around, flipped around through time. So there's another way of being victimized, is that we're caught off guard. That's one thing, the unconscious. The other thing is it's so strong and overwhelming in the present moment that we, again, lose contact with who we really are. We're kind of pressed into a corner and don't know how to respond or fight back or defend ourselves or create some kind of immunity and inner strength, because perhaps we're feeling tired or weak or overwhelmed or ill or all sorts of reasons. There's another dimension of victimization which I'd just like to describe, which is that in childhood stage we go through dependency, and this is very normal and very natural. It's like the baby on the breast is like the way of evolution, and for several years afterwards this symbiosis with the mother is a natural way of dependency or codependence with the mother. And as we get into like 2s and 3s, and then later it's echoed again in teenage years, we enter the realm of independence and the birth of the willpower, the will of I. Some people mistake this as like egoic, as being as if there's some problematic area, but it's really the recognition of the will is coming alive in us and gives us a sense of personal direction. But it's not necessarily very empathic, it doesn't necessarily include others. It's what I want, my way, my will. Then comes this third phase, which I'm calling these days co-presence, which is this state of like integrated wholeness together with others as a choice, not as an unconscious symbiosis or codependence, but as one unique individual and another unique individual choosing through empathy, love and connection to share time together, to be together. It's conscious relating, and I call this co-presence. So these 3 stages: dependency, independence and co-presence. Now victimization definitely happens in the dependency phase, because it's when we're bonded, it's when we have these needs and wants and primal desires to stay in connection. So often when we are in a state of victimization, we're actually in a more regressive stage in our evolutionary development where we are in a sort of childlike state of depending upon another. And in that dependency, there's a vulnerability that opens up. And in that opening and vulnerability, sometimes we feel victimized and taken advantage of. So I just want to open up this subject a little bit wider, because often we get caught up into this with either judgment, it's like I'm a victim of this, a complaining process, or others are doing this to me. And there's a whole growth process here to learn through, and there's different stages, and it's more intricate than just simply judging someone. It's like, oh, you shouldn't be a victim. It's like just to really give tenderness and kindness to all the different processes alive inside of us. And still journeying to waking up, growing through the unconscious, evolving through dependency into independence, into co-presence, and taking more full responsibility along the way, but not with a force, not with a judgment, not with a push, not as a condition or an expectation. Just letting nature take its course as we start to wake up inside ourselves into our fullness. So I've said a lot of different things here in a lot of different directions, but hopefully it's interesting to stimulate your awareness, and just invite you to have a beautiful day today. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.